Oh, I'm ready.
You had to scratch your ear.
Mm-hmm. It was itchy.
Oh, poor ear. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mark Bell's Saturday School. Bam, 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 bam.
Hey!
This is the first Saturday School we do in studio. So
on Tuesday.
Tuesday, don't tell anybody. Like I said on Instagram, if you tell somebody that you are doing Saturday School on a day other than Saturday, you actually might get your credits taken away. And
they can't view it right now, though, right?
No, they can't.
Oh, thank God. No.
Yeah, that was close.
Yeah.
I
don't have any pants.
Well, I guess it's good that it's just the thumbnail that people are watching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, this is Saturday School. It's a little bit different format than our regular full-length podcast. This is an opportunity for us, the people, to ask the people's coach a question, anything in regards to, like, we recently had on, like, the history of the Sling Shot, Mark's background in powerlifting, et cetera. But today's question actually is going to be more about drive and motivation. And, Mark, today we podcasted. You did a bunch of other work. You worked out, and then instead of going home, you stayed in the gym. You started working with other people inside of the gym. I actually couldn't even wait around because I had to come set this up. But you could have easily have walked away and been totally fine because you came in, you did your regular, I'll say, tasks for the day, but you stuck around and you wanted to do more. And then here we are podcasting again, where I would assume a lot of people would probably have walked away, but you decided to stick around. What is it that drives you to still work harder? You look at the points that you put up on the scoreboard. We can be. You're never you never stray away from saying, like, yeah, I got plenty of money in the bank. So you have that, but yet you're still here. So where does that drive come from? And how do you stay motivated to keep kicking ass every single day?
Well, thank you, Andrew. A lot of good compliments thrown in there. I'll take them.
All right.
I kind of look at it like I spent the first half of my life working really hard and working towards certain particular goals. And I worked really hard to make the world a better place to live. And now that I feel that I've done some of my own personal goals, I got to really see through on this goal to make the world a better place to live a lot harder than ever before. And, initially it was, me just being obsessed with fitness and strength and trying to get myself better and learning how to make myself or force myself to get better through, agonizing, torturous training sessions, staying in the gym for way too long, tearing my body apart, and to the detriment of other things around me. Getting as big and as strong as possible, taking as much time as was necessary to get as big and strong as possible, messing up and screwing things up, often with, family obligations and other obligations because I was getting stronger, because I was, quote unquote, working for the family, trying to, put us on the map and trying to just advance us all the time. And, I had to mature during that process. I had to learn. And I think it's an issue for a lot of men is, like motivation sometimes for some men is not a problem. It's more like, hey, how can you slow the hell down? For some guys, they just don't want to slow down. They're like, I got to make money. My girl wants me to like do good. I want to do good by her. I want to do good by my family. And I'm going to go out and I'm just going to, slaughter and just kill everything in my sight and it's a reckless way to be. So, I spent a good half of my life, I kind of view this as a second half, if I'm just being honest. We lived to about 80, depending on the person, but you lived to about 80. And I'm 43, so I view this as the second half of my life. The first half of my life was me trying to pick up as much weight as I could. And now my goal is to pick up as many people as I can. I want to lift people. I spent tons of time lifting weights. I want to lift humans. I want to lift people spiritually, mentally, physically, make them feel better, have them not be so reliant upon motivation, inspiration, have them understand that everything that you need comes from within. Everything that you need it's right there. It's not very many layers deep. What I want to explain to people for just a second, I'll get a little sidetracked here for a minute, is that I want you to think about the smartest people to ever walk the face of the earth. Who do you consider to be the smartest people? Like who are some of the smartest, most intelligent people? You could say Tesla. You could say Albert Einstein. There's a bunch of people that you could list off. You could say Martin Luther King, or so. When you consider that, you consider like, okay, who are the smartest people? Now I want you to think about, did those people, maybe you listed out, 50 people, or maybe you thought of 20 people. Did those people have a different brain than you have? Do they have, we have different parts of our brain that are assigned technical names. We have certain capacity in our brain and certain functions of our brain. Do those people did they have some sort of extra body part? Do they have some sort of extra organ? Do they have something that assists the brain? Did they have some sort of special drug, or were they visited by aliens and told that E equals MC squared, or any of these things? I would say that we can say with a good amount of certainty that that's probably not the case. They may have been able to explore other parts of their mind, or their brain, a little bit better than us. And maybe also they were more self-aware, or maybe more aware of what the mind and brain can do in conjunction together. And so maybe therefore they were a little bit more intelligent. But the point here is that they didn't have anything different than what we got. They don't have anything different than what you got. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Larry Bird, Tom Brady, any of these people that you put up on a pedestal that you feel are great, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the list goes on and on. You might, view me as somebody special. Anyone that you kind of put in these categories, you need to understand that they have a body, they have a brain that is... They have a heart, they got a liver, they have organs that are all the same as what you got. So then, okay, what stands in the way? There's a book called The Obstacle is the Way. What stands in the way becomes the way. It's a saying by Marcus Aurelius. So when you think about things like that, what stands in the way becomes the way. It's like, that gets into like some deep conversation, but you can almost imagine saying that to yourself and then just having somebody put a mirror in front of you. What stands in the way becomes the way. And you look back in the mirror and you're like, oh, maybe it's that guy right there. That guy looks familiar. That seems like the guy that I have to deal with the most. That's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy. That's him. That is the guy. Fuck. That guy's got a lot of self-doubt. Remember those good ideas that you had? How many good ideas have you had over the years? And then where did they all go? Did a genius reaper come to your door and say, hey, listen, man, you got to hand over all those ideas because I need to slay them. I need to kill them and make sure I mean, make sure that no one ever sees these ideas because they're too good. They can't get out to the general public, because God forbid you do something with your life and that you end up making something of yourself and you end up making money or doing something super cool. Definitely that's not the case either, right? It's just that you have filled yourself with a combination of some self-doubt that probably stood in your way, and then you probably have also heard doubt from others, which ultimately is still self-doubt. So even when somebody has shit in your cereal, even when somebody has kind of rained on your parade and said, yeah, you know what, I don't think that's a good idea, it's still your interpretation of that sometimes it leads you to being paralyzed, and it leads you to not moving forward, because you could still move forward. Even if somebody was to say something to you somebody could say, you know what, I just don't see a market for that. And you can view that as, oh my God, this thing will never work. Or you can view that as, you know what, I need to do a better job explaining what I'm talking about. I need to do a better job of making people believers. Remember when you were a kid and you played make-believe? And you could, make believe that your little race car was a spaceship, and you could put your G.I. Joe figure in there and it could go flying around the house and shit like that. That's the imagination that you need at the moment to get your idea off the ground, to get your idea to turn into a rocket and to head into outer space and to get to that next level. And you may have to, I'll give an example. I've had an idea for some time now about a walking stick. I was like, I want to just make a 10-minute walk stick. And I communicated with my wife and we talked back and forth. But my wife is like, I would just call her like a realist, she's going to just give it to you straight. But she has a bad habit of using, what I would call words that are absolutes, and I'm not a fan of absolutes. I don't ever believe in using them. Absolutes, they say it in Star Wars. Absolutes are for Sith Lords only. It's just kind of a funny Star Wars reference, but absolutes just kind of really lock you in to a certain idea or concept. And there's not really a lot of reasons to be locked into particular ideas or concepts, because the certainty that we have on anything is not, we're not certain of much. I mean, we used to not know that we were moving. I mean, even if you're standing still, you're still actually moving very fast, because the earth is moving very fast in multiple ways and in multiple directions, which is really weird. We need someone to explain this shit to us, Andrew. We need someone to come in here one day and break some of that down for us. But, in explaining this idea of the walking stick to my wife, and she was like, I don't see how that can be like a big idea or big. And I didn't start the conversation. I don't want anybody to think that my wife's a massive bitch either way, by the way, because I mention her in this tone often. She is just somebody that I bounce ideas off of. And if she was a big B, then I wouldn't be with her. I love her very much, and she's somebody that I respect a lot, and so that's why her and I go back and forth. But a lot of times, she's also just kind of playing devil's advocate to make me say something stronger and more powerful to make her believe in what I'm talking about. And so we went back and forth a little bit on it, and she just didn't think it would be that big of an idea. But now for me, that's some good fuel, because now what I can do is I can say, you know what? I'm going to take that walking stick and I'm going to shove it right up her. I'll say hoo-ha. How about that? That just kind of leaves it open to your interpretation there. But it could be something that kind of drives me to make the walking stick something a little more powerful than I initially intended, just because I want to show her that it's a good idea. So how am I going to show her it's a good idea? I'm not going to show her it's a good idea by selling millions of them. I'm not going to show her it's a good idea by being all spiteful or anything like that. All I'm going to do is get it made. It's going to look sick because my boy Sean is making it from Dutch Bros. On top of that, what we're going to do with it is we are going to donate money to a charity. I don't know what charity it's going to be just yet, but we will figure that part out. I don't know how it will all work. I don't know what it will cost. I don't know what I'll be able to donate. I don't know how it will all work at the moment, but the point of the walking stick isn't that I feel like my fans need canes to walk. The point is that it will sit in your living room, and when your fat ass is sitting on the couch eating potato chips, watching you some football, because it looks like there's going to be the NFL football season this year, which I'm fired up about. I believe that they're going to go through with it. It might start a little bit later than expected, but anyway, it's super cool. When you're sitting there watching some football and there's no fans in the crowd, but you're still fired up to watch it because you're a lunatic like me and you love football, and you're being lazy and you got a couple minutes in between halftime, instead of watching the commercials and scrolling through your Instagram, you're going to look over in the corner of your living room and you're going to see a walking stick that says do more, be more. And you're going to say, God damn, I better get my ass out there and hit up. It's not going to hurt me at all to hit up a 10-minute walk. potato chips and everything else is still going to be here when I get back, I think. And so I'm going to go hit up a 10-minute walk. But the way that I'm going to show my wife, and the way that I have previously, I've talked about this in a more recent YouTube video, you have to make people around you believe. They're not going to believe in you for no reason. You're not going to even believe in yourself for no reason. You're not going to believe in yourself for no reason. You need to give yourself some substance. And most people don't operate and have the ability to play make-believe enough to falsely believe in themselves. And some people are naive enough to believe in themselves a lot. And I feel like I was that way with the Sling Shot, where I don't really know why, but I had a good sense of it. But if I look back at it and think about it in more logical terms, I had every right to be excited about that product, and I had every right to think that it was going to do what it was going to do because of how much knowledge I had in the space of training. So it made a little bit more sense than sometimes what I have told you guys, like, oh, I just made this thing, kind of fell into it backwards. I did fall into it backwards. I am very lucky. I am very fortunate. But at the time that I created it, I would say there was 10 other people on the face of the earth that knew as much about powerlifting as I did. And I feel I can comfortably say that. And yeah, maybe there's like an extra person or 2 or 5 or 10 that I'm forgetting about, but I feel like I can comfortably say I could rival, the top 50 people in the world when it came to strength training. So I knew that it was a good idea, but I knew it was a good idea because I had a lot of great knowledge into strength in the first place. So let me get back to this concept of, making people believe. So you have to, when I physically make this product and I show my wife what this is, then it's going to click and she's going to go, oh, I get it. Okay, I see. And then if I give it to some friends, and some friends are like, hey man, like, that stick that you gave me, as dumb as it sounds, like it sits in the corner of my living room, but it makes me go do my walk. And someone's gonna be like, yeah, dude, same thing with me, right? And it's gonna catch on and it's gonna grow. And then plus because, I figured like this does not have to be a thing that I end up making a bunch of money off of. It's something that I want to do because I want people to take action. I want people to be attached to their own fitness. I want people to do more, be more. I want people to feel better. I want people to be self-motivated. I want people to be self-starters. I think sometimes when we think about motivation, we're thinking about where are we going to get it from? And you shouldn't have to look any further than inside yourself. You should be able to be mostly self-motivated. If you need too much external motivation, I'm not saying external motivation is bad. I'm just saying that you will need a lot of dosages of it, and you will need a lot of it often, and it will probably have to change a lot in order to be motivational, because just like a new song, like an old song that you've heard a million times, sometimes doesn't get you motivated unless it's nostalgic. Like it will reach a point to where it's like classic and you're like, fuck yeah, I love that song. And that's kind of different, and that will give you a good, strong emotion. But we kind of had a song on repeat today in the gym, but for the most part, you're not going to, work out for an hour and a half to the same song. And the reason is it's not exciting, because it's the same shit. You don't go in the gym and do the same exact workout every day. Like that's not very inspiring. That's not very motivational. So how do we take some of these concepts and have those same concepts go into the gym and go into your everyday life? If you think about what I said about making people believe, you have to make yourself a believer of yourself. I've talked about this many times. The most important podcast you'll ever listen to is when you have the opportunity to sit down with yourself, get across the table from yourself, record that podcast and listen back to that one and ask yourself the hard questions. Like when we have somebody on our show, we just had Casey Mitchell on the show. And there's some hard questions we had to ask that guy. Hey, man, what's it like to be blown up in war? You know, like you're sitting there halfway hoping, like, oh man, I hope Mark, Andrew, or Nsima, I hope someone's got the guts to kind of ask him, because like, no, they never had anybody on the show like this before. This is wild. Like, are they going to really ask him? They're going to ask him his thoughts about George Floyd. Like, that's kind of a tough question. Or they're going to ask him about, you know, what his thoughts are about police brutality or what he thinks of COVID. Like, these are all like, they're kind of cringe. I kind of don't want to watch it, but I kind of want to see it because like to know, because he's got a different perspective. Those are all things that, you know, you don't even ask those questions. You don't even go there unless you have some self-belief, unless you have some belief in yourself, that, you know, asking some of these questions and investigating some of this is going to be, you know, helpful in the first place. And so when it comes to motivation, it's a little bit of a complicated thing, because again, I think that people are always looking for these external sources. They think that they need to get like an IV of it from like a particular YouTube video. I think they're maybe expecting me to give them a speech or The Rock to give them a speech, and you can play some of those videos, and those videos can get you hyped up here and there. But I would treat motivation very similar to a cup of coffee. Like, a cup of coffee is not a replacement for not sleeping. A cup of coffee is something to get you a little extra fired up, but you're already fired up. So your motivation is something that it's just a little extra spark, but you need to figure out, how is that spark going to be there every day, period, anyway. The only way that spark is going to be there is when you are okay with yourself. When you love, I hate saying this in some ways, because people talk about self-love and maybe it's been a little misinterpreted, but you do have to love yourself. You do have to care about, if you care about yourself a lot, then you'll get that workout done. If you care about yourself, then you'll read that book that's going to better inform you about the courses that you're taking in school. If you care about yourself enough, you will take a shower. If you care about yourself enough, you'll use deodorant. If you care about yourself enough, you'll brush your teeth. If you care about yourself enough, you'll clean up after yourself. You'll have self-respect. You'll clean up your dishes. You'll clean up some people that have that self-respect. They end up with a lot of self-discipline as well. The two things, they go hand in hand. They go really well together for the most part. Everyone's a little bit different, but they go really good together. And the reason they go really well together is because you have built this up over a long time. And that leads me to my next point, which is something like a 10-minute walk. You want to be motivated. You want to be excited. You have to have small things that you do that are so simple and that are so easy that it is almost impossible to mess them up. It's just small victories. And let's just say that you currently just think that you suck at fitness. You currently think that you suck at figuring out anything when it comes to your nutrition. Is it reasonable for you to start your day off with a nice big glass of water with a little bit of salt in it, something to hydrate your body, something that we've heard from like someone like Aubrey Marcus? Is that reasonable? Could you wake up 20 minutes earlier and go for a 10-minute walk? Could you potentially shut your day down about a half an hour earlier so you can start to get some better sleep? Because you want to talk about having some good motivation. Well, if you are well rested, you'll be fired up all the time anyway, because life won't be that hard, because you're not going to be tired. We know that if we're tired and we have to make a lot of decisions every day, that life gets to be brutal. It gets to be really, really difficult. Being able to control your emotions when you're tired or fatigued in any way. Think about, you get home from a quote unquote long day of work. What does a long day of work mean? It means that you feel fatigued. It means that you're still kind of wearing it. You're still kind of wearing your work face when you're inside the home. And your daughter or somebody runs up to you and they want to show you something, and you're just like, fuck off. You don't actually say it, hopefully you don't actually say it, but that's the first thing. You're like, that's the last thing I want to do is see that. I'd rather blow my brains out. Especially if you got little kids. That's why Andrew's laughing right now. He knows that he shouldn't be, so he's making him laugh even harder. But it can be tough. But like, the reason why the day feels like long, or the reason why you interpreted the day as being hard, is because you're fatigued. You're kind of tired. And the reason why you're feeling tired and fatigued is because you probably did work pretty hard that day. Maybe there was some, good amount of stress in that given day. But I think if you can start to get in a little bit better habits of a couple of things, I think motivation will fall in line really well. I'll say this part too, is that getting in line with some sort of schedule. I don't think that you have to be really regimented, but I got things that I do every single day. Some of the things I do every single day include I try to drink multiple glasses of water or bottles of water. That's a thing that I don't see any way that I can't achieve that. That's so simple. It's part of my life. It's part of my day. When I feel thirsty, I'm like, oh, I need not a sip of water. I need to drink a bottle of water just to make sure that my hydration stays on point. When I stay hydrated, I tend to not feel the stress of the day as much. I don't feel as tired. I don't feel as worn out. I try to make sure I eat a certain amount of times a day. For me, it's usually anywhere between 2 to 4 times a day that I eat. I eat at similar times each day. Not the same time. Andrew knows me. Andrew's around me a lot. I'm not I don't walk around with food and it's rare. I had some Tupperware the other day because I had some Piedmontese hot dogs. Shout out to our boys and girls over at Piedmontese. They got amazing stuff. If people want to get a discount on Piedmontese, Andrew, how do they do it?
You guys got to head over to Piedmontese.com. Piedmontese.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Back to you, Mark.
But I'm super chill. I think, if people hung out with me for the day, they would see that I have time. I'm able to spend time with people. I'm able to go on 10-minute walks with Andrew. If Andrew had a concern or needed something in particular, we can chat about it. I can block off a couple other things that I need to do. I can make time for that. I can adjust my schedule. I'm not real regimented, but it is important to have some sort of schedule. I have a schedule at least partially mapped out on the calendar, and then at least partially mapped out in my head on where I'm going to be, what I'm going to do. Right now it's 4 p.m. I'm not normally at the gym this late. I'm usually, headed home around 2 or 3. I try to do that, but when it doesn't happen, I don't have a fit over it. It's not a big deal. It's part of being who I am. It's part of these days. Andrew said, hey, I saw you in there helping other people. Yeah, absolutely. I looked at Jessica Smith, who's an employee here, and she was warming up and she was stretching and stuff. And I tried to get her attention a few times and she didn't look my way. And I was like, all right, I'm going to hang out a little extra, because I want to give her a little bit of a boost. I don't want her, whatever that is that she's bringing in, because these guys and girls, they come right from work. Literally, they're in their office at Sling Shot, and then boom, they pop over to super training, which is really hard to do, especially if you're trying to be like a high-level lifter like Jessica's trying to be, right? And so I saw that, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go tease her and make fun of her and talk trash and poke around a little bit, say what's up, and just kind of see, what's going on. And she was hanging out with her sister. I talked to her sister a little bit, picked her spirits up, and boom, I bounced out of there. She probably didn't even know. She probably had no idea why the hell I was hanging out with her, why I was sitting there, but that's what it was for. I was like, oh, what are you doing today? She's like, I'm doing front squats. We got in conversation, just gave her a little bit of a boost. Who are people that are in your life right now that you could do that for? It doesn't cost you anything. Who are people in your life that you can give? That's a version of motivation. Just being in a good mood. You ever notice how unstoppable you are when you're in a good mood, or how long you want to work out for when you're in a good mood? So I think people sometimes are looking for an IV of the wrong thing. They're going around like a crack addict trying to get that motivation in their veins, but really what they need is just to feel good about themselves. And when you learn to feel good about yourself, it is a real game changer. In talking to Casey Mitchell today, and in having a little bit of a tough time getting in communication with him and getting in contact with him, I knew right off the bat that I was like, man, I think he's probably going through a little bit of a rough time. We got on the horn with him. We talked to him, and he's like, man, I've been kind of out of sorts. I haven't been the same as my normal self. I haven't been in the gym as much. And it's like, I could sense that. I wasn't even the one texting him. I just knew. The second that he had to switch times and stuff, I was like, I bet there's something going on. And the reason for that is that sometimes certain people, if they don't stay in regimen, and how do I kind of put this in a respectful way? Sometimes when they don't stay in a particular regimen and they don't stay on course, anything less than that makes them feel like a failure. That is not what I'm talking about with trying to get on a schedule. There's some real crazy pitfalls out there that you're going to run into that you never had any idea even existed. You know, you're talking about wanting to make $1 million, or you're talking about wanting to have a set of abs. The question you got to ask yourself is, then what happens? What's the next move after that? Because it's not over. Like, shit just got started. Now you got to try to maintain that. Now, especially if you posted on Instagram that you have abs, somebody sees you out, you know, you're at the grocery store, they're like, hey, didn't you used to have abs? And you're like, well, yeah, I did, yeah. You don't know how to answer them. You're like, and that would make you feel like crap. But if you learn enough about yourself and you understand what this journey is truly about, then you know that you don't need to be in a shape like that to feel good about yourself. If you do, then you got a fucking problem. You have a legitimate psychological problem. If you get off on having a bunch of money in your bank and that's the only thing that makes you happy, you have an odd psychological connection to money that shouldn't be there. You need to be comfortable with yourself. You need to understand what are the consequences of eating. What are the consequences of me going off my diet for a few days? When you consider yourself, when you think to yourself, I'm going to go off my diet for a little bit, are you sure about that? Is that what you want to do? Are you going to be able to face that? Are you going to be able to be okay with it? You should be able to be okay with it. You shouldn't be such a lunatic. The next time you pop your shirt off, or the next time, you know, somebody wants to take a picture with you or whatever, are you going to be like, oh man, look at my cheeks are like a little bit puffier than normal, you know? And are you getting that kind of dialogue about yourself? For me, you know, being 43 and snapping some pictures and like, you know, noticing that I have lines in my face that I didn't used to have when I was younger, and then having people comment on that stuff. Are you okay with it? You know, and like, what does that mean to you? For me, it literally doesn't mean anything to me because I am older. Somebody say, oh man, you look so different from Bigger, Stronger, Faster. It's like, yeah, I'm a completely changed person from Bigger, Stronger, Faster. That was probably shot, we're probably talking about 20 some odd years ago that some of that footage is from, or maybe 15 or so. I don't even really know. It's like, you know, 2005 or 3 or whatever the hell year that is. A long time ago, long ass time ago. So, you know, for me personally, staying motivated, the key factor in the whole thing has been to feel good about myself. When I feel good about myself, I'm not slowing down. I'm not stopping. Now, if I'm hurt, if I got hurt, literally, if I trained and I got hurt, the odds of me cheating on my diet are increased by 80%. If I tweaked an ankle, if I pulled a calf muscle, if I tore a hamstring, I mean, I've torn a bunch of stuff. I hurt myself a bunch of times. A lot of times that stress of that leads me to go, shit, now what? I got so much identity. I got so much wrapped up in this whole game. Now I'm screwed. But then I've learned over the years to start to recognize that and start to say, hey, wait a second. You know, okay, you hurt yourself. That's a pretty small injury. What would be good? How about some compression? How about some ice and heat? Go back and forth and see how that feels. And, you know, let maybe the next 3 days just walk, you know. And actually, you know what? If you don't feel like staying on the diet, cool. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of time. You always stay in pretty good shape anyway. You know that you'll get back to it, so there's really not a problem. But I have issue with a lot of what I see in society today, and a lot of what I'm seeing from a lot of my friends. And I know they're upset. I know they're depressed. I know that their feelings are getting massively caught up, and there's a big price to pay for the things that have happened over the last couple weeks and over the last couple months with COVID-19, all this stuff popping up about racism. It has a lot of stress. We can't unsee all the things that happen. It's hard to not be stressed out about what is going on. But when you start to gain a stronger skill set towards recognizing that you can calm the fuck down, you can relax a little bit, because you have the ability to think about your thoughts. You have the ability to take a pause. It's like you're playing a video game. Life is like a video game. You know, I know if you play online, the pause button is different nowadays, but for the most part, you can pause the game. You don't have to respond to anything quickly. Let this be a message to everybody. Email, text, DM, phone call, anything, in public communication, talking to someone face to face. There is no requirement for you to have a super fast response to anything from anybody, whether it's your boss, or whether it's an authority figure, whether it's your mom or dad or whomever. There's no rule that you need to respond right away to that. And the point of me saying that is you have time to think about it. I had a particular situation come up. I haven't really felt much of anything in a long time because of some of the things I've learned recently. And it doesn't mean that I'm not happy. I'm really happy. I feel great about like who I am, what I'm building, the people around me, the people I help, the people that help me. I feel fucking awesome. I couldn't feel any better. And this is part of the reason why I haven't felt like sad, or I haven't even felt a twinge. I haven't even felt a twinge of being angry, or I haven't felt even a twinge of nervousness in a while. It's been a while, and I know it sounds weird with all the shit that's been going on, but I've been able to hold it together pretty good. And a lot of it has to do with me learning that we have the ability to control how we feel about certain thoughts or certain things that end up in our head. And you can take your time with it, and you can let it go to a filtering system. Maybe my filtering system, maybe it's kind of slow, like because I, grew up with having a hard time reading and some different things like that. But that's okay. Just take your time with it. Some people say, hey, like chew on this, and this is something or they'll say food for thought. Give it a second, food for thought. You don't just fucking hammer it down, like chew it up. Chew it up. Give it some time. Is it something that you need to spit out? Is it something that you need to digest? Well, all these things that are in your feed all the time, are these things that, do you really want to chew them up, or should they be spit out? Are they not good for you? That's the body's first reaction to something that's like not going to be good for you, is to spit it out. Later on, if you ingested something that's not good for you, what happens? You get sick. You ingest shit that's not good for you, you get sick. I want you to think about that next time you're scrolling through your Instagram, because these things are deadly, and these things will fuck up your motivation. These things will drag you down. These things will fatigue you. I've said it before. We're not far away from social media having skull and crossbones on it. And if it doesn't have it on there, then that's a giant injustice to the world, because it's the most dangerous fucking thing we've ever dealt with. It really is. And it's not. It's dangerous because we made it dangerous. We armed it with the artillery to make it dangerous, because it shouldn't be dangerous, because it shouldn't matter what the fuck anybody says or does, because we have the ability to interpret it whatever way we want. But a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people are really drawn to things that make them feel a certain way. I was telling my wife a couple days ago, I said, you know what, if you went on TV right now and you said you're running for president and you didn't say anything, if you basically said nothing but talked a lot, and you didn't say one thing that triggered anybody one way or the other, and you were just completely right down the middle, which would be really hard to say something that doesn't trigger people nowadays. I just said, you'd probably be the president of the United States, because there would be so many people who are like, oh, she's the best. That person's the best. It's like if you say anything that has if you say anything that's even just your own opinion, you're not allowed to really say that anymore, because people get so bent out of shape about it. What I want you to understand is, when you see somebody else putting out their opinion, whether they're putting out the news's opinion, their own opinion, their parents' opinion, their opinion of somebody else, their opinion of you, it's all open to interpretation, how you interpret it. And I know that we end up in some weird spots when I get asked one question. We end up really far away from the main focus, the main focal point. But I think that people are getting the shit beat out of them every single day. I think that people are losing too many days. And maybe instead of thinking about having your days be wins and having your days be victories, how about you just think for a little while, just don't lose. Just don't lose. Have a couple rules that are cool for you to stick to, that aren't too difficult, that aren't too hard, and just don't lose. Losing would be, you don't have to necessarily put up points on the scoreboard, but just don't be in the red, man. Don't be in the negative, you know? Don't just have a day where you just drink and fucking hang out with your buddies. That shit is not going to get you to where you want to be. Yes, you can relax. You can have days like that. That's not what I'm talking about. You need days like that. Actually, a lot of people need some time. Most people need some time to just unwind and just to chill and just to truly be themselves. But if you want to be motivated, what I'm suggesting here today, what I really would love to see you do is, there's two major things I'd love you to do. Find stuff that's really small and easy to do. 10-minute walks, go to the gym, do one exercise, or go to the gym and work one body part. See if you can make it a habit to, let's say that you're not much into fitness. Just get to the gym once a week, you know, and do a bunch of walking. And just gain momentum towards that. Show yourself that you can do that. Because once you have built beliefs, you can pivot off those beliefs. Once you have developed some beliefs in yourself, and once you got rid of self-doubt is going to be the murderer of motivation. It's your self-doubt that is slowing you down. Because think about every time that you get demotivated, it's because you talk yourself out of it. You know, you had the conversation. Like, you don't need Jocko Willing to get you fired up for every workout. You don't need Joe Rogan to get you fired up for every workout. You don't need these epic speeches. You just kind of think you do because you already talked yourself out of it. You talked yourself out of it because you're having some self-doubt. You're like, I should just go home, because it would be great to be with my wife right now and just sit on the couch and just chill. Yeah, you do deserve that. That is great. But can it wait an extra 30 minutes? Can it wait an extra 40 minutes? Or could you have figured out a day to start your day a little bit earlier, maybe while everybody was sleeping, and you could have got your ass home when they get home, or something similar to that? So I want you to understand that a lot of times it's not so much about motivation. It's about figuring out ways to not be demotivated. Another real killer of motivation is going to be not getting enough sleep, as I mentioned earlier. That's going to be something that's going to knock you out. Another thing that's going to be a demotivator is not eating enough food, not getting proper nutrition. You need some good nutritional habits. I'm not even going to get into nutrition, but you just need some good basic nutrition. Eat natural foods. Eat a couple times a day. When you're hungry, eat. When you're full, stop. I was listening to something the other day, and the guy said, this guy went to somebody to get some help, and he started talking to him, and the guy said, yeah, life's pretty simple. You just eat when you're hungry and eat till you're full. And the guy was like, don't people do that already? Like I said, no, they don't, because they second guess, like, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to eat? How much should I eat? I'm kind of hungry, but I'm also kind of fat. So like, I'm not sure if I should eat. And you just, what is all that? What is all that noise? A lot of it's self-doubt. Sometimes the self-doubt might be wishy-washy because you don't have maybe the correct information. But whatever information you adopt, hold on to that information for a while until you gain access to new stuff. Don't go jumping on to new stuff until you know more about it. Don't go, hopping over to the vertical diet when you're not 100% sure what's going on yet. Stay on point, stay on task of what it is you're doing now. And until you gain more knowledge, you can pop into another thing. Another great thing to do for motivation is just to try something new. Try something a little different. If you haven't had a training partner in a long time, grab a hold of a training partner. Get a hold of a brother, a sister, a buddy, a friend, somebody, and say, hey, we used to work out together. We used to go on bike rides together. Let's go hit the trails. Let's go mountain biking or whatever. Figure out, something that you can do with somebody else, like I did today with Tom and my brother and Andrew, and we ended up having a great workout. Grab a hold of some people, make it a thing, make it an event. But you don't want it to have to be an event for you to work out, which Andrew has learned, because Andrew and I used to work out like 4 a.m. That's an event. That's a thing. And it's cool because it's militant. But a lot of times when people miss those workouts, or a lot of times once that event is absent from your life, or something changed and you just can no longer do those workouts, not reasonable to do those workouts, the motivation goes in the tank. It just completely disappears. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to switch things up. Don't be afraid to try new things. There could be a time when you're trying to get lean. There could be a time when you're trying to fluff up and get a little stronger. But when you're fluffing up and getting stronger, don't worry about the abs anymore. And you're worried about the abs, don't worry about the strength anymore. When you're going towards more money, there might be some more compromises in your life. You might have to have a conversation with your significant other and say, hey, babe, remember we talked about, remember the stress we had over the mortgage? I'm gonna kick shit into some high gear, and we're not gonna have to ever worry about that again. However, you might not see me around for a little bit. Have a conversation. I might be gone a little bit more because I'm going to put a little more effort into this thing, or I got this side hustle coming up that I'm going to, whatever the thing is for you. But I hope more than anything, I hope a lot of this stuff helps you. I hope it assists you guys. Let us know in the comments so that we can we can kick some of this up on some future podcasts as well. But let us know, what's standing in your way, what's in your way. I think most of the time it's just you. And you probably already knew that, especially if you've been listening to some of the stuff we've been sharing. Keep stuff simple. Find simple things to do, because once you start feeling good about the simple shit, you'll have some momentum that will be unstoppable. You'll be like a juggernaut.
Damn. You're welcome, world. I know this Saturday school session went a little bit long, but I think I know I needed to hear some of it. I'm pretty sure there's other people out there that felt like they needed to hear it as well. So hopefully it impacted you. Hopefully you got some value out of it. And I mean, we're about to be 50 minutes in, and you guys have made it this far. So if you're not already, please subscribe right here on YouTube, like on Facebook, subscribe and rate, review on iTunes. That would help us out a ton. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. My IG is at I am Andrew Z. Mark Bell, that was phenomenal. Thank you for all of that.
Thank you, sir.
That was great, man. Thank you so much. If people want to yell at you on social media, how can they do so?
What were a couple of things you wrote down there, Andrew? I saw you taking some notes.
Absolutely.
Share with people.
Okay, so class, let's share notes. Well, early on, you just saying that you spent your first half trying to lift all of the weight, and now what you consider your second half is you trying to lift up humanity essentially, which I thought was pretty cool because
and that's through some of this stuff. Yep.
Yeah, and I was just going to say I see it through this podcast. I see it every day in the gym. I see it here in the workplace. So that's that's really cool. The one thing that I highlighted for sure is thinking about all the smartest people in the world. they had the exact same brain that I have. there's no
yeah, it sounds crazy, right?
You know,
you're like, wait, what?
Like,
no.
Yeah, like a post that we made recently on, I took one of your quotes, and about everybody possesses the ability to get stronger. And this, of course, it fits in all aspects of life, in the gym, finances.
Yeah, smarter, stronger, more money.
All of the above. And what I said was that this isn't a genetic, or this isn't like something that will skip you genetically. Like everybody is born with this. So when you just put it like plain black and white, like, yeah, their brains were the exact same as yours, stupid. So it's like, yeah, that was really big. And, what stands in the way is the way. We all, I mean, everybody wakes up, they usually have a mirror where they're brushing their teeth. Some people are probably like kind of dreading having to go to the job that they don't like.
Yeah. And some people might be like, well, but my boss, and it's like, well, if that's, you might have to have a conversation with your boss. You might have to consider working somewhere else, like, it's still your fault. Like, you still work there. Or somebody might be like, but my girlfriend or my parents, they don't understand. My parents don't understand my diet. So that's why, I'm staying heavy. You gotta figure out a way. You gotta communicate. It still falls on your shoulders. And if you just take the responsibility, I think racism is a great example of this. I can't control the way that other people think or what other people do. I can only control my own actions. And that's it. So I'm just going to take care of me. And hopefully that helps the world a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like, that's kind of what I did. I at one point at a job, I remember I used to just hate going to. I one day was like, just try. And the job got a lot better. Now, I'm obviously not there anymore, but it was the person in the mirror that was responsible for why I was having such a hard time at that position. Another thing I wrote down is, and I wrote this in all caps because it definitely impacted me already, but make people believe, and that's so important, and how am I going to make, Mark Bell believe that I should be the person running this side of the podcast? How am I going to make him and Andy believe that I am the person that they need to be, investing in, I'll say, for the future by, like, whether it be sending me to a certain, like, audio engineering school or, bigger paycheck or something, if as I'm asking them, I'm like, so guys, like, I was kind of thinking, like, this might be a good idea. Maybe. I don't know, though. Like, of course not. If I don't believe in me, they're not going to believe in me. So that's very important. And then lastly, just don't lose. That is huge. We talk about, making small wins, like setting up the day to make it to where you will, get some W's on the board, but also, like, just setting it up to not lose. Like, I have said in the past, like, I don't like when teams play not to lose, but in reality, in real life, like, yeah, dude, like, just don't take any steps backwards. You physically, you're not in the best shape of your life. You're not happy where you're at. Just don't eat another fucking cupcake. You don't have to go and be David Goggins, but if you say no to that one cupcake, you're not losing. You're not going to be putting up huge points on the scoreboard, although that is a win, but you're not setting yourself up to lose again. Turn off Netflix one episode quicker than you really want to. That's setting yourself up for the following day to not lose, to not sleep in, to not hit snooze again. It's that's huge, man. I love today's Saturday school, man.
Last thing I'm going to finish with, and I'll sign off here, is just like, I wrote down just in big letters, just make a prototype. So if you want to make people believe, you have to show them something physical. And for me personally, I made a prototype. Like, make a prototype. I made a prototype of a bunch of stuff in here. Rogue Fitness didn't understand what I was talking about when I wanted to create wagon wheels. You can go on roguefitness.com right now and you can check out wagon wheels. And they got an ST on them with our logo on it. And the reason why it has our logo on it is because I showed them the way. I had to actually get it made. It cost me like $600, $700. And luckily at that time I did have money from the Sling Shot invention, but I've done things like that previously when I didn't have money. I figured out a way to make it work, borrowed money or whatever the hell I had to do, to get something made. But when I made the wagon wheel, I took the wagon wheel. I know how Rogue Fitness parties. I know what they're up to over there. And I took their red the 20 kilo, bumper plate, which is 55 pounds. And I put that's the biggest plate they make. And I put that right next to the wagon wheel, and I sent them a picture, and I said, this is what I'm talking about. I had it made locally. I had it made in Woodland by my father-in-law. He owned a machine shop at the time. And when they saw that, they were like, oh. And Rogue Fitness is into making things big and bold and expressive and look cool. And this wagon wheel that we created looked awesome. It looked cool, and it was massive. It was way bigger than the regular Rogue Fitness plate. And it dwarfed it and made it look insignificant. And I think Rogue was like, ooh, like that makes our plate look puny. And they were like, okay, yeah, we get it. We'll make those for you. And not only they make them for me, they make them for you as well, and people can purchase them. And so I think initially they were like, well, why don't people just get blocks to pull off? I'm like, I explained this to you before, that the blocks break and they're a pain in the ass and they're super heavy and they're super expensive. I think this would be and I think this would just look badass. So make a prototype and show people. That's what I also did with the Sling Shot. We're going to get the hell out of here. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Just thank you so much for all the fans of the podcast. It's been amazing. Like, there's just been, it just seems like the podcast is continuing to grow exponentially fast, and that's been amazing. And then in addition to that, the at Mark Smelly Bell or Mark Smelly Bell YouTube channel has been growing quite a bit. We have over 25,000 people over there checking that out as well. And I'm sharing a lot of great information over there. If you like this kind of information and you want to hear more of this kind of content, I'm just crushing it over there as much as I possibly can. In addition to that, you want to check out more stuff, you can check out markbell.com, which is just following along with the workouts that I do. I talk about what I'm up to more recently with my diet and my running, my lifting. If you want to check it out, you want to get some programming from there. We're constantly updating that between myself, my boy Jesse Burdick, Josh Setledge. We're adding stuff to it all the time. It's getting updated nonstop. So go and check that stuff out. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later. Bye.